Today we are going to see the femur bone. So in the last class we had seen the features of hip bone, and the next bone is a femur. It is the longest bone in our body, and this is present in the thigh. So hip bone is the thigh bone. As you can see in the picture, it is a long bone. It's a long bone having an upper end, shaft, lower end, and each part has its own features. Since it is a long bone, its upper end consists of a head, a neck, and two large trochanters. In the humerus, we had seen that the humerus consists of a head, two neck, a greater tubercle and a lesser tubercle. But here, in this femur, this is a head, this is neck, this is greater trochanter. Here we have to say greater trochanter, not tubercle. It's greater trochanter, and this is lesser trochanter. These are trochanters. They are bony projections. Greater trochanter and lesser trochanter. Then connecting the greater and lesser trochanters, intertrochanteric crest in the back side, and anteriorly it is connected by intertrochanteric line. This is intertrochanteric line. So intertrochanteric line and the intertrochanteric crest are two ridges which is present anterior and posterior aspect. They are connecting the greater trochanter with the lesser trochanter. This intertrochanteric line present anteriorly, while the crest is present posteriorly. That's the difference. On both aspects, it is connecting the greater trochanter with the lesser trochanter. But line is present anteriorly, crest is present posteriorly. So the upper end consists of a head, a neck, a greater trochanter, a lesser trochanter, and an intertrochanteric line and crest. Well, taking the head. Head is not like the head of the humerus. Head of the humerus was semi-spherical, or it is half of a sphere. It is just like a half of a sphere. But this is more than half of a sphere. This is larger. The head of the femur is larger, and it is more than half of a sphere. This is articulating with the acetabulum to form the hip joint. So since this is an articular surface, it is covered by hyaline cartilage. All the articular surfaces in the synovial joint is covered by hyaline cartilage. So this surface is also covered by hyaline cartilage, and this is articulating with the acetabulum to form hip joint. Then in the top of the head, there is a fovea. Fovea means depression, a small depression. And this fovea is called the fovea of the head of the femur. Fovea of the head of the femur. And this fovea is giving attachment for a ligament called the ligamentum teres, or ligament of the head of the femur. Ligamentum teres. You must have heard of this term, ligamentum teres, in liver. Here also the ligament is called ligamentum teres, or you can say ligament of the head of the femur. So this is a pit or fovea present at the top of the head. Then this is the neck of the femur. See, this neck is elongated. The neck of the femur is elongated. It is not just like the neck of the humerus. Humerus consists of two types of neck, anatomical and surgical, but here it consists of an elongated neck. So the neck shaft angle is more, it is wider. So this neck, below the neck you can see greater trochanter, lesser trochanter, intertrochanteric crest, and anteriorly intertrochanteric line. This is a posterior view of the femur. How we can identify is posteriorly in the shaft there is a prominent border called linea aspera. This prominent border is called linea aspera, that is labeled here as corpus femoris. That's the other name for that. Linea means line, a prominent line. linea aspera or corpus femoris. So wherever this corpus femoris or this linea aspera comes, that is a posterior aspect of the femur. Here we can see this in this picture, you can see both the views. Anterior surface is smooth. There is no particular marking on the shaft over the anterior surface, but on the posterior aspect you can see a prominent ridge called linea aspera. So here you can see this is a head with the pit covered by hyaline cartilage, articulates with the acetabulum to form the hip joint. This is a neck region, this is greater trochanter, this is lesser trochanter. Since this is the anterior aspect, this line is called intertrochanteric line. But on the posterior aspect, this line which is connecting the greater trochanter and the lesser trochanter is called intertrochanteric crest. Then the attachments which is coming, the important attachments that comes in the upper part of the femur are, one is to the greater trochanter. To the greater trochanter, gluteus medius and gluteus minimus is attached. Gluteus medius and gluteus minimus. Insertion of the gluteus medius and gluteus minimus is present. Then in the lesser trochanter, iliacus and psoas major. They are both iliacus and psoas major together called iliopsoas. Iliopsoas. Psoas major spelling P-S-O-A-S. Psoas. P is silent there. Iliacus and psoas major together inserted to the lesser trochanter. Then on the medial aspect of the greater trochanter, there are some more muscles. Obturator internus, gemellus superior, gemellus inferior. Obturator internus, gemellus superior, gemellus inferior. But on the top of the greater trochanter or the apex of the greater trochanter, there is piriformis muscle. Piriformis. All these are insertions. All the muscles that comes around the upper end is insertion of the muscles. So here comes the piriformis. Medial surface or the inner aspect of the greater trochanter consists of obturator internus, gemellus superior and inferior. Then on the outer aspect you can see the gluteus medius and minimus, and in the lesser trochanter you can see the psoas major as well as iliacus. They are together called the iliopsoas. So this is about the upper end of the femur. Now we can move to the shaft. Shaft doesn't have much features. 3 borders and 3 surfaces are there. Borders are the medial border, lateral border, posterior border. Medial border medially, lateral border laterally, posterior border posteriorly. But there is a peculiar feature for the posterior border. Posterior border is sharp only in the middle part. So this posterior border is called the linea aspera, which is very prominent, and it is clear only in the middle part. While moving upward, you can see this that this linea aspera is divided into 2 lines. One goes medially and the other goes laterally. See, this is medial, this is lateral. This lateral area, this lateral division of the linea aspera, upward continuation of the linea aspera divides into 2 lines. One goes medially, other goes laterally. This lateral line is rough, and this lateral line is called the gluteal tuberosity. The gluteal tuberosity. Gluteal tuberosity gives insertion for the gluteus maximus muscle. So already we had seen gluteus medius and minimus in the greater trochanter. Gluteus maximus is inserted to the gluteal tuberosity in the upper part of the shaft. What is gluteal tuberosity? The this linea aspera divides into medial and lateral. This lateral part, the lateral part of the or the lateral division is rough, and that forms the gluteal tuberosity. Now, the medial line. This is a medial division which is called pectineal line. Pectineal line. So that gives attachment for the pectineus muscle. Insertion of the pectineus muscle. Now, the same line, the linea aspera, when it comes down, there also it divides into 2. One goes medially, other goes laterally. And these 2 lines are called medial supracondylar line and lateral supracondylar line. medial supracondylar line and lateral supracondylar line. So linea aspera, while it goes up, it divides into pectineal line and gluteal tuberosity. Pectineal line gives an attachment for the pectineus, gluteal tuberosity gives attachment for the gluteus maximus. Lower down, linea aspera divides into medial and lateral lines. Medial line is called medial supracondylar line, lateral line is called lateral supracondylar line. Then, since it is divided into two parts, two lines in the upper part and lower part, we can make out a posterior surface here as well as here, because the linea aspera is divided into two branches in the upper part as well as lower part. So that occupies a space in the upper region as well as lower region. These areas can be considered as posterior surface. So posterior surface is not present throughout the bone. Posterior surface is present only in the upper region as well as lower region. That is because of the division of the linea aspera. The attachment on the linea aspera are the vastus lateralis, vastus medialis and vastus intermedius. Vastus lateralis, vastus medialis and vastus intermedius. Then all the adductor muscles like adductor longus, adductor brevis, adductor magnus are present. Adductor longus, adductor brevis and adductor magnus. So all the three vastus and all the adductors are attached to the linea aspera. Adductor muscles are inserted while vastae are originating from the linea aspera. Vastus muscles are the muscles of the anterior compartment of the thigh, and then these muscles are attached or it is originating from the linea aspera, while the adductor muscles are inserted to the linea aspera. Now, apart from the adductors and vastus, one hamstring muscle is also attached there, that is the biceps femoris. The short head of the biceps femoris is also attached to the linea aspera. Now, we will see the lower part of the femur. Lower part consists of large projections. One is present medially, other is present laterally. And these projections are called the condyles. In the lower part, we could see a supracondylar line here and here. So, since the condyles are present here, these lines are called supracondylar lines. Medial supracondylar, lateral supracondylar. So, these are called condyles. Medial condyle, lateral condyle. Medial condyle, lateral condyle. In between the condyles, so lower end consists of two condyles. Condyles are the bony projections. This condyles, between the condyles, there is a fossa or the space called intercondylar fossa. Intercondylar fossa. So, this is the feature of the lower end. The lower end consists of two condyles. These two condyles are articular facets. These two condyles has to attach with the condyles of the tibia. The same condyles will be present in the tibia also. Tibia is the next bone that comes lower to the femur. So, condyles of the femur articulates with the condyles of the tibia to form the knee joint along with the patella. Patella, condyles of the tibia, condyles of the femur together forms the knee joint. Okay. So, the lower end consists of a medial condyle, lateral condyle. The small projection which is present above the medial condyle is called medial epicondyle and lateral epicondyle. Corresponding epicondyles are also present just above the condyles, and this is the intercondylar fossa. So, this is about the lower end. It's a lower end. This is the anterior aspect, the whole, and this is posterior surface. So, that is about the structure of the femur. This picture is showing the muscular attachments comes here on the anterior aspect. Here, main attachment is a vastus intermedius, origin of the vastus intermedius, and the remaining vastia comes here near the linea aspera. These are the muscles of the anterior compartment of thigh. This is vastus intermedius. This is the rectus femoris. This is vastus lateralis. This is vastus medialis. And below the rectus femoris is vastus intermedius. This is how it is arranged in the body when we open the thigh. And to which bone it is attached? To the femur it is attached. To which part of the femur it is attached? All the vastae is attached to the shaft. Anteriorly vastus intermedius, and the remaining are to the linea aspera. So that's about the different parts of femur. So it consists of an upper end, shaft, lower end. Features of the upper end are head, neck, greater trochanter, lesser trochanter, intertrochanteric line, intertrochanteric crust. Femur shaft consists of 3 borders and 3 surfaces. And these 3 borders are the medial border, lateral border, posterior border. Posterior border is called linea aspera. Surfaces are anterior surface between the medial and lateral borders. Then medial surface, lateral surface. Medial surface, lateral surface, anterior surface. Then we can make out an upper posterior as well as lower posterior surfaces. In the lower end, it has large 2 condyles, medial condyle and lateral condyle. Just corresponding epicondyles are present just above the condyles. So this is about the femur. Thank you.